Get great deals on the latest phones, tablets, and business apps with O2 Business. You're watching BTech, I'm Basil, and this is the Huawei P9. This is the HTC 10, comparing both for you. Before I do subscribe, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, have loads more HTC 10 videos coming, and that is how you'll stay on top of them. So in a nutshell, the P9 5.2-inch full HD display, very, very thin in spite of the 3000 mAh battery under the hood, dual Leica cameras around the back, Kirin 955 processor, so it's a powerful little beast, and it's not as expensive as current flagships out there. But how does it stack up to HTC's 10? The 10 has also 5.2-inch display, this time Quad HD resolution and SLCD5 as opposed to IPS. The front camera on the 10 has optical image stabilization and autofocus, which is crazy. You can also see fingerprint scanner below the screen, USB Type-C on both devices, but this one has a stereo speaker. Boom from the front, boom from the front, and you get a stereo sound, which is unlike that we've heard before. You can also expect an optical image stabilized 12 megapixel camera. This also outputs high resolution audio, and out of the box you will be getting high res audio headphones as well, which is pretty unheard of, so you'll be able to enjoy the quality without having to spend an extra penny. Sweet, sweet deal. Well done, HTC. No, so the design, first off, I personally in hand feel prefer the Huawei P9. It's more elegant, it's less thick. Even though they both have 3000 mAh batteries, the P9 just feels like just a more manageable device. Were I to have smaller hands, it would definitely be my default. That said, I do really love the fact that this sports stereo speakers, and the bottom firing speaker on the P9 always gets covered up when I'm gaming, which peeves me off. So that extra size may well compensate, or that may well compensate for the extra size on the HTC 10. You can also expect the screens, like I said, to be different resolutions, so I can pull in closer and you can see swipe, swipe through, swipe across and down, and they are different resolutions, but they're also different screen text. SLCD3 versus IPS LCD5, sorry. So the SLCD5 on the HTC 10 kind of seems to have a red hue off angle, but I'll dive into the settings, see if I can change that a little bit later. Both do support custom white balance to a degree. What you can also expect inside is Android 6.0 with customized UIs. Now the HTC 10 is a much more stock version of Android in the sense that it has an applications tray. HTC's also work closely with Google to minimize the clutter, so you have Google Photos instead of HTC Gallery. You have Google Camera instead of, or HTC's Camera instead of Google Camera, but HTC's ditched their browser in favor of Cram. You can see what they've done. They basically just have one app for everything, which is cool. Huawei, by contrast, doesn't. Huawei Emotion UI is notoriously busy, but there are some cool features around it. You can hide apps like Tinder, for example, by reverse pinching. You can also drag down to get a universal search. No applications tray, but you can load your home screen up with widgets and shortcuts, as well as applications and folders. Pull down from the top, you have a much less stock notification bar. I much prefer the HTC 10 notification tray because it's a two-tier pull down one. Swipe notifications out of the way with ease, as opposed to swipe across, accidentally swipe notifications out of the way when you're trying to get your shortcuts. Right, if you want to know more about my gripes and my loves of Emotion UI, make sure you check out the 5 things I love and the 5 things I loathe about Emotion UI. 2 separate videos also on our channel, uploaded yesterday. Back to these 2 phones. So the UIs are going to be horses for courses. If you're very into theming though, both of these will support some heavy theming, and HTC even supports something called freestyle theming. So it treats your whole user interface as, well, nothing short of a desktop experience. You can drag and drop icons anywhere. Watch our hands-on video for more on that with the HTC 10. In terms of the camera, we can't really go into too much detail here. The dual Leica cameras really are something that have disappointed us a little bit in our use with the P9, based on the fact Huawei made such a big deal out of it. We've used them and they perform really well. The manual mode's great and you can get a lot out of them, but Huawei was saying that this is the best camera known to man, and unfortunately I'm not entirely sure I agree with that. The HTC 10, HTC hasn't made quite so many bold claims, although DxOMark does rate this the best camera out there right now. They rate Sony the best camera, and Sony cameras have their own issues, so we'll have to use it to find out. What you do end up with though, which is really, really cool, is easier access to the Pro mode. So you can have manual settings really easily accessible at your fingertips, or obviously you can just stick with plain Jane automatic shooting, take a picture. HTC has laser autofocus on here, so it takes a picture nice and quickly, and instantly you can see we have a relatively sharp picture. Can't draw too much from that though. Check back for something a little bit more conclusive. Under the hood on these devices, you've got a Kirin 955 processor. If you opt for the 32 gig version, then you're going to get 3 gig of RAM. If you opt for the 64 gig, you will get 4 gig of RAM. You just have 4 gig of RAM on the HTC 10. 4 gig of RAM with a Snapdragon 820 processor. 3000 milliamps of battery under the hood on both. Both will have the latest connectivity speeds, Cat 6 LTE, all of that jazz. Really is going to come down to what you want from your phone. Do you want a slender phone with a decent battery and a real focus on design at probably a lower price point? Or do you want an audiophile's dream with stereo speakers, high-res audio output, and high-res audio headphones in the box? Well, like I said, the choice is yours. Any questions about either device, if there's anything that I left out, fire that in the comments section below. Be sure to, if you like the video, thumb it up. If you like the channel, subscribe. It's how you'll be staying on top of everything that we do. Thanks for watching BTech. Get great deals on the latest phones, tablets, and business apps with O2 Business.